Zawadi by Youth is really a student-generated group that's interested in microfinance and development work. And they've done just great work in Africa, India, and now in Haiti.
We raised $5,600, and the beauty of microfinance is that money was recycled. Once the people paid back their loans, we were able to reinvest that money again.
With a small amount of resources, you can really make a big difference. This trip to India worked well because we've done so much from a theoretical perspective over the internet.
India is actually the origin of microfinance. So let's go see where, microfinance started.
Several of the things that we were trying to do was, one, we were trying to sort of understand India, understand the wonderful contradictions and paradoxes inherent in that country. Two, we were wanting to get a sense of how do you do good work in microfinance and development. And then finally, in India, there's a massive number of young people, and those young people are incredibly optimistic about their future.
The message across the board in India is for children to be the change. I think it was the common denominator with our group of children and the children of India.
There was a huge culture shock when we landed in India. I mean, right when I stepped foot off the plane, you could just tell you were in a completely different world.
You're hit with this almost wall of heat and humidity and smell.
On one side of the road there was a cow, because in Mumbai and India you can't kill cows because they're sacred. And on the other side of the road there was a Mercedes-Benz.
The children on the street were walking barefoot, and they had picking up food from the street.
I think that they were shocked. I think that it was very hard for them to grasp that there were children their age living so vastly different than they live. I think more than anything, it really offered perspective.
We were going down some of the main roads of Mumbai, and we were just seeing people in droves sleeping on the streets. It was very intense.
We were in a hotel, this beautiful hotel, and from the hotel room out the window you could see this huge slum. And I think that just clearly expressed the disparity between the wealth and the poor.
I was really surprised by the levels of poverty, which I had heard a lot about, but of how these people know that through hard work they can survive and they can create better lives for their children, if not for themselves.
It was amazing to see how much hope there was in a place that looked like there could be no hope.
You think that living in those conditions and having that lifestyle, you couldn't help but be miserable, but it's so the opposite. I've never seen happier, more enthusiastic children in my life.
We not only found abject poverty, but we also found an intense spirit of optimism and a spirit of industriousness.
This is just really amazing how everyone was so productive, and actually I heard it was one of the biggest recycling industries in the world.
Everyone was taking the initiative to help themselves and try as much as they could to get out of their situation.
This wasn't a tourist trip. We really engaged with people from all different types of society, different age groups, and really engaged with Indians and trying to really understand their country.
So what she will do, she will buy a gold coin or something, because it is safe.
We went to a group called Akanksha. What they do is they take over schools after the regular school hours are over, and they allow children to get extra schooling. I think that Akanksha could be potential partners in the future because they're very much focused on the mission of empowering youth.
We have mentor groups who come in and will do kind of a big brother, big sister program, if you're aware of that. Yeah,
it just was great, I think, for our kids to understand that you can be young, and even if you don't have that much, you can still actually change society for the good.
We had the privilege of meeting with a couple different CEOs. One of them, Mr. Tata, a Riverdale alum in particular, who is committed to making his country better for all walks of life and all groups of people.
He's known as one of the most respected men in India, one of the richest men in India also. And one of the reasons he's so respected is that he started the Ratan Tata Trust, trying to bridge the gap between the rich and the poor in India.
On this trip, we learned an entire other side of microfinance, which is these communities of women that come together and they don't work through a bank, they save money together. And so the interest they're paying doesn't go to banks, but goes back into those savings. And we thought that's a very interesting way to do it.
A lot of the microfinance organizations there focused on targeting women because they have seen that in Indian culture, women really are the heads of the finance in their own homes. I mean, they're really put in charge of almost everything.
Empowering women in a very direct way impacts the ability for children to have opportunity because women are often the centers of communities.
have our clubs, but we have changed our clubs.
When I went to India, I thought kids would be completely different. I thought I wouldn't be able to relate to them at all.
This is the nature club.
I was just amazed at how much they know and how culturally aware they are of not only their own country, but of America as well.
As we were walking down one of these side streets, we encountered a few boys playing cricket, and they offered to let us take a couple swings.
At the Riverside School in India, I was talking to several students there. We started talking about Twilight, and then we started talking about how the boys are all annoying because all they want to do is play soccer. And I was just like, oh, look, these are things that happen in my life every single day. And it was very cool to see how, even though we were so far apart and there were so many things that were different about our lives, that we were also so connected.
We are strong believers that it's a flat world, and we believe that education is not only sitting on the benches of a school and discussing with teachers, it's also get in the wild and learn by yourselves. And the school of life is just as important as doing school.
I think it's very important to sort of pop the little bubble of isolation that we live in, to have our worldview opened up.
The whole notion of going somewhere where your money is going is something I feel very strongly about. It's something that all of us feel very strongly about because you really get to see what's happening.
I think it played a huge role in motivating us and pushing us even more to work harder to help some of these people we met that were very hardworking but lacked the resources in a lot of cases.
We can learn a lot. We can learn a lot from that.
It's important to be a change. It's important to help. And it's important to see how much poverty there is in the world.
We're trying to develop really good thinkers. We're trying to develop people with good character. I guess you can really ask the question, to what end? And I think this helps us answer that question. It helps say that, whatever people do when they leave this school, one thing that they should be focused on is making changes in society, changing society for the good. And I think a lot of these kids are growing up with the idea that they can do something really good and have, productive, normal, healthy lives at the same time. And I think that's something that I'd like to see us really push in the years ahead.
I just want to keep pushing forward. I think we learned there's so much more we can do, so many different paths to take, and the resources we have as a school and as a community, we need to exploit them and use them to the best of our abilities to do as much as we can.